What's going on, guys? Ribomcario teacher in the house, and I am here with the SPPL week number 2 team builder. Team Ribomcario is taking on the Excadrillin hose and coach Michael Sparks and Darbeast. And of course, because this is Team Ribomcario, not the Royal Bournemouth Ribombies, I am of course joined by my teammate, Tyler Poker Trainer, aka Record Man, aka Tyler Brown, aka Ribombi Student, aka the guy that's got too many AKAs.
Hi everyone, we are here for the team builder. On about my teacher's channel. Last week it was on my channel. Now it's on about my teacher's channel. We're just swapping between each channel. So you ready to get into it? You got anything to explain?
Absolutely. So as always, of course, if you are not following both our channels, you're missing out. So go check out the battle over on Tyler's channel. But for now, let's break down their opponent's team. They took a very narrow win last week. However, their opponents threw on the last turn. So they literally took a narrow 1-0 win. So it's going to be interesting. We're, of course, currently 0-1 after having a rough start. But we can bounce back. I think this matchup is nicer for us than last time. So let's talk about it. First up is, of course, their Mega of choice, which is Mega Ordino. It didn't come last week. I'm not sure how much it really can afford to come this week. It's very bulky, got decent HP and defensive stats, but it's really lackluster in anything else. Offensively, it offers next to nothing. Does typically run Wish Protect, does have the Regenerator ability to pivot out and maintain a decent form of health. Can run things like Knockoff for utility and Toxic and Dazzling Gleam for damage, but Dazzling Gleam really doesn't do much. But nonetheless, very solid bulky pivot, but it is relatively low tier. Next up, of course, is that Excadrillin. Got a massive buff this generation thanks to Rapid Spin, giving you a speed boost as well as removing hazards, which is ridiculous. It means Excadrillin doesn't need to run a Choice Scarf anymore. Typically, it can be seen with an Assault Vest, can also be Life Orb, can be Focus Sash Lead with Stealth Rock, but I don't really see that, given the fact they have quite a lot of Stealth Rockers on their team, so it's more likely they're going to be a Sword Stance variant, in my opinion. Next up is Infernape, can be physical special, does get Carmine, Sword Stance and Nasty Plot, does get Recovery and Slack Off. Typically in draft it's mostly seen as a Scarf set with U-Turn, can be pivoting, and does also have the Iron Fist ability, which is nice. It does get all punches except Thunder Punch, which is worth noting. So it can hit pretty hard, but yeah. Naturally outsped by Cinderace though, so there might be a few little tricky moments for Infernape. He would be forced to run Scarf, but Cinderace can still naturally outspeed with a Scarf as well. So we'll see what happens with Infernape. I expect a special set, but they more likely will just run a pivot. Next up is most people in Gen 8's worst nightmare, Galarian Corsola. In Gen 8 draft, this thing causes a lot of issues because there's not that much access to Knockoff and Toxic. However, because this is National Dex draft, there's a lot more access to it around. So this thing is still not that big of a problem to a lot of people. Does, of course, still get the dreaded Will-O-Wisp and Strength Sap combination, which is really nasty for physically offensive mons. However, on the special side, it is still somewhat weak. If its Eviolite does get knocked off and it gets Toxic, its longevity is significantly crippled. So we'll see if they bring it. It's a risky bring, it's very passive, but it can be a decent rock setter as well, so it's not too bad. Next up, of course, is Dracozolt. Super hard-hitting offensive mon, especially on the physical side. Got a really decent physical attack stat. Does, of course, have the Hustle ability, which gives a 30 boost in, or 50 boost in power for a little bit less accuracy, which is insanity. It's very, very powerful. However, I'm not sure he can bring Hustle. Its speed tier is really slow. It gets outsped by a lot of our team. Doesn't hit Meltstale that hard either, so that's something else to bear in mind. One thing that is worth noting is right now, Sand Rush is an illegal ability on Dracozolt. It did not get it from Pokemon Home, so he cannot run that. So if you do run Sand, it will still have to be Volt Absorb or Hustle ability. Volt Absorb's interesting because it can prevent things like Rotom from switching around with Volt Switch if they choose to bring that, but I expect a Hustle Life Orb set. That's pretty much the main set it runs. Could also run Substitute. Next up, of course, is Primarina. Primarina actually got a nice buff in this gen with access to Calm Mind. Very solid mon, especially on the specially offensive side. Does hit like a truck, does get coverage moves and things like Energy Ball, gets Psychic, gets Ice Beam. Does also get Perish Song, which is kind of fun, but I don't imagine they ever bring that. It is kind of weak on the physical side, though. Does get a little bit demolished by physical or offensive mons. Doesn't really take it too well. But nonetheless, really, really solid mon in general. Very good specs user. Probably Assault Vest is more likely to bring, in my opinion. Next up is Hippowdon. Hippowdon's kind of in an awkward spot this match because we do have good answers for it, but it is his only real primary sand setter with that sand stream ability. Really good physically bulky Pokemon, does get access to recovery and slack off, does get phasing in Whirlwind as well as that Stealth Rock. It's mediocre damage with Earthquake, but it doesn't really get anything else to hit that hard with. It does get the Elemental Fangs, but it really doesn't do a lot of damage. Hippowdon mostly known for just setting up sand and getting out of there. Could be a good pivot for Excadrill. Definitely could be useful, but I don't see it coming. Next up, of course, is one of my favorite Gen 8 Pokemon is Phalanx. Phalanx, pretty interesting fighting type move. Of course, his signature move, No Retreat, giving him an Omni boost, but the trade-off is you can't switch him out. Has nice abilities in Battle Armor, preventing it from crits and Defiance, which is really nice because it gives a +2 attack if it takes a stat drop, which is important. We do have Webs on our team, we do have Ribombi, of course, so they might think we might run Webs and catch us with that Defiant boost. So you never quite know, but Phalanx really strong, decent coverage moves, so it can be obnoxious, but unfortunately Phalanx's base stats pre-Omni boost is actually not that impressive, so we might be able to exploit it in other ways. Next up is Virizion. Virizion, kind of versatile, much like Infernape, can be physical or special. Does get Calm Mind, does also get Swords Dance. Typically, more recently in Gen 8, it's been seen as a physical Swords Dance user with Life Orb. Leaf Blade does actually do a huge amount of +2 to even fully bulky Tapu Fini, for example. Moonblast doesn't kill back, so that's something to bear in mind. Virizion does hit hard, does also have the Justified ability, so any knockoff threats can be a problem. Giving him a free attack boost is not really something you want. But yeah, decent speed tier, really good special bulk. Very lackluster on the physical bulk side though, and quad weak to flying. Could make Mandibuzz an interesting dilemma for it, but yeah, we'll see. Next up is Shuckle, of course. Shuckle, very known for its huge amount of bulk and completely lackluster offense and speed. Typically seen with Webs, does get Encore and Toxic and also Stealth Rock, so can be interesting. But I don't see what Shuckle really offers aside from entry hazards. We do have plenty of ways to remove them, not just Mandibuzz or Fini. We do have Court Change, of course, for Cinderace, so that's something else to bear in mind. He could actually be setting himself up for an issue. They might try that, though. They might try Web's lead and expect us to Court Change it over, so they can give the Phalanx Defiant boosts, but I don't see that coming, to be honest. And last but by no means least is Oricorio. Oricorio, way too frail, does get Calm Mind, of course, can be a decent Calm Mind user, but its move pool is kind of lacking no matter which form you give it, and it lacks bulk regardless. Very easy to take down, but it is a defogger, so that's something worth noting. So in terms of rocks, they actually have a lot of Stealth Rock users. They've got Excadrill, Infernape, Corsola, Hippowdon, and Shuckle. They have Webs in the form of Shuckle. They don't have any spikes or toxic spikes at all. Their removal is limited to Rapid Spin on Excadrill and Defog on Oricorio, and they have one Cleric in the form of Mega Audino and Heal Bell. So that's their team. So Tyler, how about you talk about our first mon, which is going to be Mega Venusaur.
Alright, so Mega Venusaur rocking out with the thick fat Giga Drain, Earth Power, Sledge Bomb, and Leech Seed, Max HP, Max Special Attack, with the 4 in Defense, with the Modest Nature, with the nickname Asparagus. Want to go over the rest in detail, because I'm a Ribombe student.
Yeah, so of course we had debated on other things like Synthesis and Weather Ball, which is an interesting tech. Weather Ball is abusable in sand, given it a 100 base power ground type special move, which is actually stronger than Earth Power, but if Hippowdon doesn't come, it's a normal 50 base power move, which is not actually that strong. So we ran Earth Power mostly for Infernape. Infernape does not take it at all. It does also hit the Excadrill really hard, as well as primarily the Dracozolt. Giga Drain, of course, is mostly there for Primarina and Hippo, but can do mediocre damage to things like the Corsola, depending on what spread it brings. Leech Seed is there for a nice little bit of longevity, and Sludge Bomb is very nice for that Mega Audino, as well as the Virizion and Primarina. Right, next up is, of course, going to be Mandibuzz. Let's talk about Mandy the Mandibuzz.
Alright, so Mandibuzz rocking out the Heavy Duty Boots Overcut ability. Is that Overcoat?
Overcoat, yeah.
With the moves, Knock Off, Defog, Roost, and U-Turn, Max HP, 4 in Defense, and Max Special Defense with the Careful Nature.
Yeah, so let's talk about it in more detail as always. So, Heavy Duty Boots Overcoat is kind of the way Mandibuzz is super effective. Overcoat is fantastic as an ability because it prevents us from taking damage from Sandstorm, which is crucial against the enemy team. Heavy Duty Boots means we don't take entry hazards. Mandibuzz, of course, being weak to rocks, that 25% extra health is always nice. Knockoff is very spammable against the team. It's stab boosted. We just have to be very wary of that. Virizion, default gets rid of entry hazards, particularly if they bring Shuckle. It's going to be a nuisance, so getting rid of it this way is going to be better. Roost for longevity, and of course U-turn to pivot out. U-turn is always nice against the team. Pretty much nothing on the team appreciates being U-turned on. Alright. Next up on our team is going to be Cinderace. How about you break this one down?
Alright, so Cinderace is holding the Choice Scarf with the moves U-turn, Zen Headbutt, Spyro Ball, Pyro Ball, Gunk Shot, 88 in HP, max attack, 168 in speed, with the Jolly Nature, with the Blaze ability. Tell them about these EVs.
Alright, so the CV spread is kind of an interesting one. I talked about a little bit about Infernape and Cinderace outspeeding. The 168 speed EVs plus the Jolly Nature means that we will outspeed a Choice Scarfed Infernape by 1 point. The rest of these Vs, of course, in HP, heat for longevity, as well as attack to hit as hard as possible. Something that's worth noting is Zen Headbutt is primarily there for Infernape. It actually has a chance, and a significant chance, to OHKO Infernape after Stealth Rock. That's something to bear in mind. U-turn is always safe against the team. Pivoting is always nice. Pyro Ball is relatively spammable against the team. Only really Infernape and Dracozolt can afford to take one. Gunk Shot is mostly there for Primarina, but it's also there for Ardino if it comes, and Virizion if we feel like we don't need to risk the Pyro Ball. But Pyro Ball is actually slightly more accurate, so more likely we'll be clicking Pyro Ball anyway. But either way, this thing is super fast. It outspeeds everything on his team except for a Sand Rush Excadrillin in Sand, which nothing can outspeed. So, that's worth noting. Alright, next up is going to be Aqua the Tapu Fini. Go ahead.
Alright, so Tapu Fini is holding the Leftovers with the Misty Surge ability, with the moves Calm Mind, Moonblast, Scald, and Haze, max attack, max defense, with the Bold Nature 4 in special defense. I want to take it over.
Of course. So, Calm Mind, of course, is always nice against a lot of specially offensive teams. His team is very physically offensive, so we ram to run fully Fizz Def. This gives us the most chance of living a +2 Sword Stance from Virizion. We're assuming it comes, we're not too sure. Haze is really good against setup sweepers. There is quite a lot of potential setup opportunities on their team, so the opportunity to haze it will be pretty nice. Scald, of course, spreading burns around outside of terrain is always nice, and Moonblast for those special attack drops. There are a few decent special offensive mons in his team, so any special attack drop is nice. But Moonblast is relatively spammable against everything that is not named Excadrill, which gets obliterated by a Scald, by the way. Alright. Next up is going to be one of my old fan favorite Pokemon, is Literal Trash the Garbodor. Let's go, Turner.
Turner?
That's not what I said.
Holding the Black Sludge, Aftermath ability, Spikes, Toxic Bite, Stomping Tantrum, and Pain Split, max HP. Max attack, what? No, max HP, max defense, Impish Nature, with the 4 in special defense. Literal Trash is here, and he's shiny.
Absolutely, as always. Okay, so this set's kind of a nice one. It's pretty much a primary job is to set up hazard sets. Stomping Tantrum is there because this set pretty much baits in Excadrill almost every time it comes in. Stomping Tantrum actually 2 shots guaranteed. We do have a chance of living the Earthquake if it's not a Life Orb set, or if it's not set up with Sword Stance. Pain Split is very nice because it allows us to heal up off things like the Corsola. The Corsola, of course, can be a little bit obnoxious, but nonetheless, this thing's job is to set up spikes and toxic spikes. Pretty much, as there's not that much removal on the team, we don't expect Oricorio to even come, which means their only removal is Rapid Spin Excadrill. Spikes is going to be crucial. Spikes chip damage is always strong against their team. And outside of Ardino, which gets Regenerator, if we can get 3 layers of spikes up, we mitigate the vast majority of that healing anyway. So, yeah, this thing's job is to set up spikes, primarily. Toxic spikes will be nice if we can get some poisons off on the more bulkier mons, like the Corsola, like the Shuckle, like the Virizion. we have a decent chance of really wearing their team down. That's pretty much Garboda's job. It can offer a little bit offensively, but it doesn't really need to hit that hard. Alright, and last but by no means least is literally probably my second favorite Pokemon on our entire draft. Is going to be Ginger the Mudsdale. Take it away, Tyler.
Right, so Ginger is holding the leftovers with the stamina ability Earthquake, Heavy Slam, Stealth Rocks, and targets it with max HP, 4 in attack, and a max defense with Impish Nature. Take it over, Bombay teacher.
Of course, so Earthquake being primary stab is going to hit the Excadrillin, Infernape, and Dracozolt, which are extremely likely to come. Heavy Slam is primarily there for the Mega Ardeno, but it also beats the Shuckle and the Primarina potentially pretty well. Toxic is nice and spammable against his team, much like Toxic Spikers, and of course Stealth Rock. Being our primary hazard, breaking any focus ashes, anything like that. Infernape really doesn't appreciate Stealth Rock, neither does Shuckle or Ikorio. So any little chip damage we can get. Obviously, of course, Stamina is really strong against their team with the amount of physical presence they have offensively. Mudsdale can sit in, take a couple of hits all day, and really start setting up. I did consider putting Body Press on it, but with Corsola there, Body Press is too risky, so it wasn't worth the actual risk. But yeah, that is going to be our 6 for this week. Let's hope we pick up the dub this time and not play it badly as I did last week. I owe that at the very least, so we will see what happens. But either way, that's going to be our team. Of course, if you want to check out the doc, it's always down below. The battle's going to be over on Tyler's channel, so I will link that video in the description as well. So go check it out. Hope you're supporting us. And as always, we are going to get on out of here. We are, of course, Team Ribomcario. Make sure to stay safe, stay awesome, and we'll see you guys next time. Take care.